So with MentorColor, we're building a platform that tackles one of the core problems that we've seen in tech, which is around representation of people of color. And so what we've done is that we're pulling together people that have a lot of experience in their fields, and we're giving access to people that would otherwise be locked out of these opportunities, either those getting into tech, but others that are already in tech and are thinking about like the next step or trying to navigate their careers. We started this journey, myself and Buena, a few months back, and we've been dedicating a lot of our time on this. And so far, we've been able to pull together over 300 mentors from over 33 countries at this point. Our mentors work for different companies across the globe, some of which we've represented on this slide. And what you can expect sessions like this. For example, John is going to be speaking to us about leadership and management, but you can also have one-to-one sessions where you can just go on MentorColor and book a time with John. You can get support on any aspect of your career that you're trying to navigate. We have specific topics that you can also choose from to discuss with your mentor. And also, like I said, sessions like this that we organize every week, and you can join any of them whenever you want. Encourage you to also check them out and see which sessions are of interest. I know we have some really great sessions coming on around the management and leadership track, so check it out. Thanks. I'll stop here and I'll hand it over to you, John.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Welcome, everyone. I have a short slide deck that I will start sharing. I never shared a slide from Google Docs, so bear with me for a second. Okay, slideshow. Can you all see the slide now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I will do a very brief introduction about myself. Then I have a very short presentation. But what I want to do today is also to make sure I can answer all your questions, because we have only a couple of people join the session, so we can have a lot of one-to-one discussion, which I think will be a lot more useful than the slides I've prepared. So I'll do a brief introduction about myself. I'll go through my slides, and then I'll open the floor for everyone to ask me questions. It doesn't have to be related with the slides. You might have come with some expectation from this session, and if you don't hear that in the slides, we can talk about that in the questions section. So feel free to stop me and ask your questions during the presentation as well. You don't have to wait until the end. So I will be having pauses in my presentation. It is just to make sure if anyone has a question, you can step in and ask, because sometimes if I present very fast and don't leave spaces, people can't jump in to ask questions. So if you hear some silence, that's because I'm leaving space for questions. Let's start with the introduction. My name is Can. It is spelled with C-A-N because I'm originally from Turkey. And 7 years ago, I moved to the UK, and I live in London since then. But today I'm in Colorado for a business trip. I started at IDBS 6 months ago as the Senior Director of Engineering. So I am leading an engineering function of 120 engineers in total, including contractors, permanent people. And IDBS is a B2B SaaS company. We offer software as a service product to biopharma companies like, for example, Moderna or GSK. And they use our tools to develop their medicines, to run their experiments. And that was the main reason why I joined IDBS 6 months ago, because of the industry they are working at. Before that, I was running my own consultancy company. I've done management consultancy for 7 years. And even before that, I was working for a global telecommunications company. My background is software engineering. I've done hands-on software development for 5 years. And that's my background. Today, I'm going to talk about leadership, management. What are these terms? Are they different? Are they the same? And I will give some examples of leadership styles at the end, so you can see practical examples of it. I like to start with the definition of leadership. I picked 2 definitions from 2 different people that are respected in the industry with their academical knowledge and the books they have written. The first one is from Susan Ward. Susan Ward helps small and medium companies to develop leadership and management competencies inside their companies. And the definition from her is, it is the art of motivating a group of people towards achieving a common goal. This is very high level, and Susan is focusing on motivation and common goal. Another one is from Peter Drucker. He's more famous, so you might have heard about Peter already. He's written the Effective Executive book, and his definition is management is doing things right, leadership is doing the right things. So that's how he's categorizing management and leadership. That's the difference between them. So leadership has less to do with how things should be done, but more to do what should be done and what the focus should be. So that's the definition from Peter. And I want to give a few examples to make it clear about the difference between leadership and management. So when you are in a leadership role and the expectation from leadership activities starts with setting the direction. So you need to have your vision and set the direction for your organization. And this can only happen with enough experience in that industry and have a forward-looking plan in your mind about where the industry will head to. So that's quite important, because if you set your direction to one side, but the industry goes ahead to the other side, then you'll take your organization to the wrong place with a big gap between the customer demand and the market demands. So setting direction is an important responsibility for leaders. And this has a lot of risks involved in it, because you can't always see the future, right? You can't predict what's going to happen. But you need to read into the signs of what's happening in your team, in your company, with your competitors, with your customers, and generally in the industry, and set the direction accordingly. I think we can give an example now from what we have lived during the pandemic, what happened now. Things are getting back to normal as a leader, you need to decide whether you are managing a few people, a small team, or you are managing an entire function. You need to decide what will happen with ways of working in the future. Do you think we will keep working remotely? Do you think this will not change in the next 5 years? Or do you think we will go back to the office? And setting that direction is important because you make the investment accordingly, you make hiring accordingly, but you need to set the direction for your organization and try to predict what might come ahead. Creating alignment is also a leadership behavior. So when you set the direction, if there is no alignment, everyone will move in a different direction. And if not everyone pulls in the same direction, you will have a lot of waste in your organization, a lot of wasted energy, a lot of frustration. So you need to make sure people are aligned. They understand the direction, they understand their role, and there's an alignment in the function you are leading. So they all work towards the same goal. The last one is motivation and inspiration. So this is sometimes more important than the ones above, depending on the situation you are in, because if you set the direction, create the alignment, if people are not motivated, if they are not inspired by the vision, they won't be productive. They won't put the effort they can. They won't care as much. So setting the direction, creating the alignment won't help with the execution if people aren't motivated and inspired by that direction. So that's why it is also the job of the leader to make sure people are motivated and inspired. In some cases, this is easier. In some cases, it is very difficult. For example, in IDBS, I believe inspiring our people is easier compared to my previous roles because the industry we work in is already inspiring people. Basically, we are helping to save lives. We are helping to create medicines. This by itself is good inspiration. So this is a good example where it is easier because of what the company is doing, what the purpose is in the company. But in some cases, it's not that easy. Imagine if you are working, for example, I worked in finance as well, in fintech. Motivating the team in fintech companies and inspiring them is more difficult because the purpose you have has a very small connection when it comes to adding value to ordinary people's lives. So that's a summary of what's expected from the term leadership, what you need to do. And let's talk about management a little bit so we can see the difference. Management includes activities like planning or having the budget, making sure the spending is within certain limits, distributed in the right categories. And this planning can be the roadmap planning. Planning can be, even if you are familiar with Scrum methodology, then it can be the sprint planning at the beginning of the sprint, depending on the organization size. And planning and budget management, these are responsibilities of management category. Organizing and staffing, again, management. And by staffing, I mean having the interviews, assessing the CVs, making sure each team has the right skills needed to deliver the tasks, the right people in the teams. organize people in a way that they can collaborate, and basically they can work together to deliver things, organization, stuffing. And this includes the usage of different tools. What tools do you need to use? What processes do you need to put in so they can organize better? This is also related with management. Control and solve is more about situations where you need to go hands-on and help the team when they have barriers that they need to resolve. But they are not able to resolve that barrier. You need to be more hands-on in some situations and help them to resolve these issues. So in a nutshell, this is the difference between leadership and management. So I'll go back to leadership a little bit to talk about, in order to achieve these on the left, what activities do you do as a leader? First of all, you talk to people. You talk to people a lot. And I mean really a lot. I'm spending half of my time in my calendar with one-to-ones. Because this is the most important thing for me. Talk to people, first to understand them and listen to them, and also making sure they get my message directly. So I spend a lot of time talking to people in my team, making sure I talk to everyone once a quarter at least. And depending on the team, I talk to my team, for example, every day. And with my second level reports, I talk to them every 2 weeks, and so forth. So I spend half of my time talking to them. Creating transparency is also something you do in order to achieve the ones on the left. I have full transparency starting from my own targets. For example, my own targets are public. We call them P4Gs, but you don't need to know that. It's performance goals, how you will be assessed at the end of the year by your boss. In my team, they all know what my performance targets are. This is just one example, but the idea there is having full transparency. Enabling autonomy and decentralizing decision-making is also important. You need to make sure once people know the direction, they have alignment, they are able to operate in autonomy. Even from the team member, the engineering managers, they feel empowered, they can make decisions. And as a leader, you need to create that environment for this to happen and remove barriers when they have any. With management, a few examples. Budget management is one of them. Delivery planning. If you are working with sprints, what is the delivery plan for the sprints? If you are responsible for the roadmap, what is your roadmap for the next few quarters? The hiring process, you need to have the interviews, you need to decide which team requires which skills, problem solving, team management within your team, who is performing, who's underperforming, and have the career plans for these people, how they can develop themselves. These are also management activities. But a quick detail here. You might think that you need to have a job title for leadership or management, but it's not the case. It's not about your job title. Any role would have some of these in it. Sometimes your role might require more of the leadership. Sometimes it might require more of the management activities, but it's not related with your hierarchical level in the organization or your job title. When people say that in my early career, I wasn't inspired by that. I didn't believe in that because I didn't see any examples. So I want to give some examples so you truly believe that any role would include some of these. And before doing that, I want to ask something to the attendees. I'm trying to see the camera now so I can see your faces. I want to check how many people attending worked in an engineering team before. If you can just hold your hands, if you have. I want to make sure the examples I'm giving can relate. If not, I'll give different examples.
There's also the raise hand feature there. You want to use those to put the reactions and stuff.
Okay, I think I got the message. We don't have many people from engineering organizations, engineering teams. So I'll keep examples more generic. Thanks for that. I'll give an example from my own role. So when I was working for a global telecommunications operator, I was working as a software engineer. And then I had a secondary hat that I was given, which is called a Scrum Master. And for those who haven't worked in an engineering team, Scrum Master is more like an orchestrator, organizing people. And I was responsible to organize people in the team. I wasn't a manager. I was a software engineer. It's additional responsibility to organize people because I was good with my communication skills with the rest of the team. They get along well with me. And also the others were usually rejecting any additional responsibility. And I was a person that gets extra work all the time. So I was given that responsibility. And after some time, the head of that division asked me to be responsible for the budget as well. And like always, I always say yes to these extra responsibilities. I said yes. And even if I wasn't a manager, I was basically entry level, I was responsible for the budget management for a division, for an entire division of 60 people. And this activity actually developed my competence on management, where budget management is required. And this is one of them. And in another role, I wasn't a manager again, in an entry-level role. I was asked to look at European Union funded R&D projects. They said, okay, have a look. Can we come up with project ideas? Can we create a team and apply for R&D funding from European Union? I came up with an idea, but you also need to have a team with you to support that idea and then apply for funding. And even as a team member there, I had to use some leadership skills, leadership activities to inspire people and say, look, I have this idea, let's develop on top of this idea, make that idea better, and then have a plan and get the R&D funding from European Union. So I convinced people to join the team, to believe in that idea. We applied R&D funding and we got the R&D funding for that project. So this is another example where I I didn't have any titles. I was having an entry-level role, but I used leadership skills to fulfill that activity. So that's why I'm saying both this leadership and management responsibilities can be in any role at any time. So you don't need to wait to do these things with a new job title or with a new role. You need to look at what role you have, what are the activities you can do, and then keep in mind that you will need leadership and management activities all the time. This is the last slide in the presentation. I want to give a few examples about different leadership styles. So it's more concrete in your mind when people talk about leadership. And after that, I will just stop and ask if you want to hear about anything. So I want to leave last 25 minutes, 20 minutes to your questions. So these are intrinsic leadership styles, which means usually they are coming naturally. So it's very difficult to teach someone to be a commanding leader. It's very difficult to teach someone to be a visionary leader. It's usually built on top of your whole experience, not only work experience, but life experience together. Which I will not get into now. There are leadership techniques that you can learn and embed, but I'm not going to talk about these. These are the natural leadership styles. And these change a lot throughout your career. So the leadership style you had naturally 10 years ago won't be the same. And with me, it's not the same either. I was more of a visionary leader, whereas now I had a transition to be a democratic leader, and now I can see myself as an affiliative leader. So it is changing throughout your career. Let's start with the commanding one. So the commanding style is do as I say. So you demand compliance to whatever you say. Harry Truman, US president of, was an example of it. And it sounds bad, like commanding leaders. We don't like commanding leaders. Do as I say, don't question what I say. But actually, they work the best in times of crisis. Pace-setting leadership is another one. I like the famous example Elon Musk a lot because he sets high standards for performance, but he also adheres to his own high standards. So he doesn't say do as I say. He says do as I do. He works a lot. I don't know, in some interviews he mentioned how many hours of the day he was working, and it was ridiculous. But at the same time, he's expecting the same from the people in his company. Democratic leader requires consensus with participation. So she or he asks, what do you think? What's your opinion? It doesn't mean that they don't have any opinions, but before they make up their judgment and opinion, they always first listen to others. Affiliative leaders, they create harmony and they build bonds between people, and their mantra is people come first. So at this stage of my career, that's where I see myself when I assess myself now. That's my leadership style. It's especially good if you need to motivate people that are under stress or they had some difficult time in the company, because you need to build bond, create harmony, calm people down, and also make sure each individual, one by one, is supported in their career, they progress in their career, And also they can achieve their life ambitions as well, not only career-wise, also what do they want in life, how can I help as a leader by providing them the right environment. So you put people first, you think about people, and you don't think in scale. You think about individuals one by one. What are their strengths? What are their desires? In order to achieve their goals, how can you support them? The coaching leaders, it is in the literature when you look at leadership styles, but I don't agree that it is a leadership style because all leaders need to coach. So I don't agree that it's a leadership style. Visionary leaders, they have very good inspiration skills. So when they talk, you listen. That's how you can tell if it's a visionary leader. They have a clear vision. They believe 100% in that vision. And when they talk about it, they mobilize people behind that vision. People get excited when they talk. So it works best when you need a new vision, when you need a directional change in the company. And visionary leaders help setting that vision and making sure people are inspired by that vision. So I can see a little bit of Elon Musk in that as well. I think he's between pace setting and visionary together. But this is the general framework of leadership styles, and this is not my knowledge, my data. This is academic way of teaching leadership styles. So you can find this information everywhere. I will thank you for your time, for listening to me. I will stop sharing now. And I want to open the stage for any questions. It can be related with the slides, or it doesn't have to be. Anything you want to learn from me, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, thanks a lot, John, for this. I think I'll just open the stage with one question. I think it was interesting when you said your leadership style changed over time. Like, what was that looking like for you, and does it change because like you were trying to go towards a more effective leadership style, or what was kind of the circumstance around that?
Very good question. Very good question. Thank you. So it's not about being more effective and better, because each of these leadership styles, they work better in different situations. But my journey, I think, changed with my experience. When I was younger, I had more of a commanding style or visionary style, because I had a vision with 100% confidence. I think when you are younger, you believe in things a lot stronger and you get very passionate about it. You don't leave any space for any questions. You ignore questions, you ignore comments. That's good if you have the right vision. And luckily, I had the right vision. But it's a risky one, because if you don't have the right vision and you stop people criticizing it, questioning it, then you will fail. But I think my journey started with that because of basically my age. So I was lucky enough to test my leadership skills at an early time in my career. And it wasn't voluntary. I wasn't thinking, okay, in this situation, commanding leadership style will work better, so I have to be that. doesn't happen like that. I'm doing this assessment now, thinking back. But after that, I think I started being more democratic because I started realizing, well, I don't have the answers to everything, because the challenges and the problems I was assigned to solve became bigger and more difficult, where I realized, okay, what's going to happen now? I don't know the answer to this, but I am used to having the answers and having very clear vision. And then it changed my style. I started being more democratic. And I think at this stage of my career, I care more about people than anything else. So what's important for me is to have the right people in the right teams, because I saw that success comes when the right people in the right positions, and they thrive if they are given the right opportunities, and it helps the business as well. It's not like it's only serving these people. It's not like I am only helping people. What I've seen is when you help people, they help the company. So that's how I changed my leadership style. I don't know what will happen in 10 years now.
Thank you. Yeah, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask questions, or if you prefer, you can also drop it in the chat and we can take it.
I know one of the things that you talked about was how you use the scale of different leadership styles at different times in your career. One of the things that I'm kind of I guess positioned to do, or that I need to do now, is help others to develop these same type of styles. What tips do you have for the people that are just getting started and helping others to cultivate these, where you may have one manager or one leader that has specific requirements, and another leader that is working in a totally different context that has other requirements?
That's a very tough question. I think what I've seen working is to give people challenges, challenging problems where they have to adapt, because that's how it happened to me. The difficult challenges pushed me to change my style, and what these people will need is encouragement to adapt. I think it starts with the encouragement to adapt. And also, I think what helped me is honest feedback. So when the previous question came, like I was thinking of assessing what happened, but I remembered now something that's very important happened during my switch from commanding to democratic, and it was an honest feedback. Someone told me, well, you are not letting people talk and you are shutting people off. And I wasn't aware that I was doing that, which helped me a lot to change. So honest feedback and encouragement, and giving people the right challenges that push their boundaries so they can experience different styles. But it starts from the very beginning, like giving them small responsibilities, trusting in them helps. I like giving examples because otherwise it's just empty words, but my division head gave me the management of budget, for example, for the entire division. If he hadn't done that, I wouldn't have the experience. This is, I think, the most important thing. And you shouldn't think that it will be a one-off activity. It is an ongoing development journey. I'm even learning now. It doesn't finish. You don't take a course 1 month. Okay, I developed this skill now. You take another course 1 month. Okay, I have this skill as well. I think the experience itself, getting these challenges and responsibilities is the best training and education. Does it make sense?
Definitely. Definitely gave me some new perspectives on pathways I can take. Thanks.
Yeah, for example, if it depends on where they are at their developments, at what stage they are in the leadership team. And I can give a suggestion for a book as well. If they are in C-level, they are or getting prepared for the C-level, there's a book called Good to Great. It helped me a lot for my current job. In my current job, I'm reporting to the general manager, and it's a senior role that I had to develop myself. And that Good to Great, the book, helped me get some knowledge, and now I'm trying these in my work.
I have one question, like how do you spot new leaders, you being like a leader nowadays?
How do you spot leaders? Is that the question?
Yeah, new leaders. Yeah, new leaders in your organization, like the people that will maybe be like director in a few years or something like that.
Okay. So this is, it starts with them making themselves visible. I think that's very important. If we are talking about leadership, as I said, it starts at every role. It doesn't have to be a managerial role. And when you show these skills, it becomes visible to everyone. For example, proactivity is very important. Someone in my team, a software engineer, spotted a gap, said, we have open source libraries, but we are not tracking their versions. They might get deprecated. I want to build a repository of these libraries, their versions, and keep track of them. That's a very good leadership skill. And she built a team around her. She get everyone to look at the code base, observe the libraries they are using. She got everyone to put that information in a Confluence page. She organized them. She made them aware of the risk, inspired them, and also proactively spotted a gap in our process that's missing. And that becomes visible. So you don't need to worry if someone will see your effort. People will see. Like, I saw that effort, and now she's in my mind in career progression. And there are a few examples of that. Any other questions? Or does that this answer satisfy the question? I can talk a lot more about anything. I'm just stopping myself because I can talk about the question for 10 minutes more.
No, it's pretty clear. Thank you for the answer. Makes sense.
I have a question. How often do you do one-to-ones with your team, or do you have any suggestion for the frequency for one-to-ones?
So with my team, we have daily stand-ups. So anything work-related, we talk about that in daily stand-ups, but that's work-related, not people-focused. So it's not about them, but it's about work and company. Do they need me to decide on anything? Is there an escalation? Do they need any support? What are they working on? But the one-to-ones, which is more about how are you doing? How do you feel? Is there anything you are planning for your career? What development skills do you need me to help you with? This I do every 2 weeks with my team. But in that one-to-one, we don't discuss work-related matters. That's done in other meetings, in the daily meetings.
Okay, thank you. That helps me a lot. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And by the way, I'm saying 2 weeks, but I make it clear to them that it's their meeting. So sometimes they say, okay, I don't want this, so they cancel it. So what I make sure is I have the time for them allocated in the calendar, but they know that it is their time. If they want to cancel it, we cancel it. If they want to make it 30 minutes, we make it 30 minutes. So it is basically their time. They bring the agenda, what they want to talk about. I am just making myself available.
I'm just checking if someone else has a question, but I can ask another one. So there's this concept of skilling yourself as a leader. So doing more things through people. So the act of delegating. What are some of the ways that you feel you've been able to effectively delegate? Like, what are some of the things you pay attention to make sure that that goes smoothly?
Okay. I'm not ready for that question, so I'm just thinking now what's the answer to that. Yeah, delegation is very important. You have to, like at the beginning I mentioned decentralization and autonomy is very critical. Otherwise you can't scale any business or any team. I think my mantra is, first, will I add any value to that if I don't delegate? Like me being involved in it, is it going to add any value? In most cases, it's not. Like if we are talking about an AWS, we are moving an organization from one AWS organization to another. Me being involved in that, will I add any value while we have the AWS solution architect there, we have the AWS DevOps engineer there? No, I won't add any value. They know it a lot better than I do. So I wouldn't be involved. Will I add any value is one of them. And second, do I have to be involved? Because in some cases, it requires high risk decision-making, which they wouldn't want to make and which I wouldn't put them in that position that they have to decide these things. So I think these are the things, and apart from any of these, it should be delegated, because otherwise you'll find yourself in a position that you're a bottleneck for the team. It's very difficult because sometimes it sounds to the team as if you are just pushing things to the team. But on the contrary, what you are doing there is to make sure you are not a bottleneck. And these are also development opportunities for people. When I delegate things, I also explain what value it will bring to people by doing that task or that initiative.
Thanks. We can take one more if anyone has any question.
Come on, Damien. I thought you would ask a question.
I was sitting back and making sure everyone else had their chance. So I guess the one question I was holding back on, we've spoken a lot about leadership and managing, but part of leading, I guess, is how do you lead upward? So if you have a team and people at a peer group or lower, but sometimes you need to lead those that are actually in charge. So How would you recommend doing that, John?
Okay, being an ex-employee of IDVS, promise you won't tell this to my boss.
I promise.
But you need to lead upwards as well. You're right. The way you have to do it is to lean them towards your suggestion rather than telling them, because in most situations, if you are talking to your boss, having a few suggestions and then explaining your preference works better than just setting up one option. Because if you set up one option, then your leader or your manager will start thinking about other things. They'll start having questions. Now you won't be able to get an answer or a decision there. But what helps when leading is to show that you worked out the details, you talked about different scenarios, and you have a preferred view. And if you go like that, then that discussion becomes a lot easier. Does that help?
It does, and I think you're right. That's quite often quite a difficult discussion to have. So going in prepared and having multiple options and showing that understanding definitely makes that discussion much easier. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, if you can't prepare and if it is on the spot that you need to comment, my suggestion would be to use light words and ask for opinions and suggestions. So get the leader with you, lead them by asking questions first and having a more open discussion.
So using more of those.
Sorry?
So I was going to say, so going back to that slide you shared earlier a little bit, it'd be more kind of the affiliative leadership styles, the what do you think, that kind of approach.
It's the democratic leadership style. Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, you need to exactly use the democratic style, and also people focused as well. You're right, both of them. Yeah, good one, good catch, Damien. I think referring to the leadership styles makes it easier to answer that question.
Great. Yeah, so we're hitting the top of the hour. So yeah, I just want to thank everyone for joining this MentorColor session. And thanks, John, for taking the time to pour out a lot of those gems. I'm pretty sure everyone benefited from this. So I encourage everyone to go book John on MentorColor if you want to have one-to-one conversations with him. Yeah, thanks for joining. Let us know how the session went. You get emails to give reviews. It will be great for John to know how this has impacted you. And yeah, hope to see you soon in another session.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you again.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye.